It was Sunday night. Sunday night, and on the refrigerator are two lists. One of them is how to keep us safe. And you'll find out in a little bit why we need to be kept safe. And on it, it says that we are to leave the Marines alone because they're guarding our house 24/7. Gives a time when Sergeant Curtis will pick up Gregory, take him to kindergarten every day. Yep, and it's now the 5th week that Sergeant Curtis has been doing this, taking our boy to kindergarten, standing watch, and keeping our boy safe. And the other thing on that list was, you will not go anywhere, unless escorted by a Marine. Oh, I want to go anywhere, just anywhere by myself. I want to be out amongst people. I mean, so we're not allowed to tell anybody this is even going on. We can't say a word to anybody. But please, just one time, I would love to go by myself. So this is my plea. Bud, honey, tomorrow, couldn't I please just go to the obstetrician by myself? I get a stern look. Linda, and I know when Linda comes out, that's the word. Linda, you will be going to the doctor, escorted by Sergeant Curtis. But Bud, please, I don't want to go with Sergeant Curtis. This is not the place where you want another man going with you to the obstetrician and the gynecologist. Couldn't I please? I'll drive straight down there. I won't even stop. I'll be on base, so I'll be safe. Please, Bud. Absolutely not, Linda. Sergeant Curtis will take you tomorrow. Then he sort of softens a little bit. He thinks, well, she has that look on her face like she's hurt. And he starts kissing my neck. And he says, Doll. Now I'm back in good graces again because he called me Doll. He says, Doll, couldn't we have a baby? Wouldn't you think about it? We're not supposed to be going to California. This would be the perfect time to have our third and last child. A baby girl. I want a baby girl. And he's continuing to kiss my neck. And when Bud does that, he can pretty much get anything he wants. And he knows it. He absolutely knows it. So the next day, the sergeant shows up. He takes Gregory to school. Bud goes to work and I work at home because now it's not safe for me to go to work. So I'm working at home, and pretty soon Sergeant Curtis comes back with our little boy, and he goes running in the house, and right behind him in another second government car is Bud. Gregory runs in the house. Mommy, Sergeant Curtis is ready to take you to the doctor's. And sure enough, Sergeant Curtis was out there. I could see him through the window. He's standing by the passenger side, looking just as uncomfortable as I am about taking another man's wife to the obstetrician and gynecologist. The Marine that's guarding our front door said something to the sergeant, and for the first time ever, I could see the sergeant blush. I couldn't hear what the Marine said, but Sergeant Curtis was blushing. So I make one last plea. Bud, please, I don't want to go with Sergeant Curtis to stop. Linda, go out there, get in the car, and go with the sergeant. So I give up. I go out there. And I go out. There's the sergeant. Now, the sergeant is about a head shorter than I am. I'm 6 foot tall. And the sergeant is about a head shorter than I am, and he's twice as wide. Muscles on his muscles. And he walks me over to the passenger side, and he says, Ma'am, I'm here to take you to the doctor. Thank you, Sergeant. So he opens the door, I get in, he comes around the other side. Now, normally, Sergeant Curtis never talks, doesn't talk, never says a word, and he never smiles. The man is all Marine, straight work, he's doing his job. So we're driving down Route 26 to the base hospital, and he says, Ma'am, When's your baby due? I said, well, Sergeant Curtis, I'm not having a baby right now. My husband, the ever forever Bud, has decided that before we move to California, I need to go have a checkup. So this is just a checkup. Okay, he says, okay, well, we'll get you there. It won't be a problem, ma'am. Just relax. I'll keep you safe. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. So the sergeant puts his mind and his hands back to driving, and he doesn't say a word. We pull through the gate up to the clinic. Now, this is the clinic for ladies who are having babies and ladies who are having gynecological examinations. There is not a man around. The sergeant and I walk into the waiting room, and there's at least 10 or 12 pregnant women sitting, waiting for their turn to go in. So I sit down, and the sergeant sits down next to me. Now, he's very uncomfortable. He's kind of squirming, so he picks up a magazine. Now, the only magazines in the clinic were parenting magazines or baby magazines. What to buy your baby. So the sergeant picks up one of the magazines, opens it up, and sort of hides behind this magazine. And on the front of it is how to have a successful pregnancy. And then it has a big picture of this most adorable baby, and it's being held by a daddy. The lady next says to the sergeant, oh, that's so sweet that you brought your wife along. You came with your wife for her to get her examination. Now, the sergeant can't say anything. He's not allowed to say anything as to why he's escorting me. So he just sort of looks at the lady and, okay, you know. And so every woman in that waiting room lifts up her head to look at the sergeant, and he's kind of, oh, he's in the position. He can't say anything. He says, my wife isn't pregnant. Yep, my wife isn't. We're not married. That's not my wife. The ladies in the room are aghast. You are here with this woman, and it's not your wife? Oh, shock. They're all in shock. So we sit there waiting, and the sergeant's squirming, and he's so uncomfortable. Poor guy, the single Marine is sitting there squirming. He doesn't want to be there. And now every lady in this room, every pregnant lady in this room, thinks he's there with a single woman who he hasn't married, and they're planning to have a baby. Oh, the scandal. Oh, the scandal. And he can't say a thing. Poor man. So he's sitting there. So it's finally time for my examination. The door opens, the nurse says, Mrs. Sample, your turn now for your examination. The sergeant stands up and starts to follow me in for my gynecological examination. I said, whoa, wait a minute, Sergeant. I think I'll be okay. I think I'll be okay with this. I will be safe in the examination room. No way is that sergeant going in for my gynecological examination. So the sergeant sits back down, and he's sitting there with all these pregnant women. Oh, he's so uncomfortable. The poor man. I feel so bad for him leaving there. So I remember while I'm getting my exam that my husband would like to have a baby. And since this is an unexpected and a rather quick move to California, when you read Fading Mary, you'll find out why we were moved so quickly to California. It was to keep us safe. We had to flee. So we had to flee South Carolina. So anyway, so I get my exam, and I have my IUD taken out. So the doctor, I said, Doc, can I have that? Kind of a gag gift from my husband. Sure. He says, sure. He puts in a nice little white box. So I take my little white box, and I go out in the waiting room, and the poor sergeant's there still looking, whatever, and I'm there, and he's so uncomfortable. So I said, come on, Sergeant, it's time to go. So I stand up and take his arm. Now he still has that magazine clasp in his hands as we're going out the door. And every lady, every pregnant lady in that room is looking at the sergeant. And then he remembers that he has this magazine. He can't take this magazine from the waiting room, so he turns around, puts the magazine on the table. Every lady's watching him. They're still watching him, scrutinizing him. Oh, they're upset. And what does the sergeant do? He squares his shoulder proudly. He puts the magazine on the table. He walks over to me and he says, "Come on, baby, let's go home." And he took my arm and he escorted me out of the office. I love Sergeant Kurtis. I wonder where he is. I've lost track of him. He was my hero. He kept us safe during a bad time. So I hope you enjoyed that story, and thank you for tuning in again for Sunday Morning Live. Tune in again